If you're like me, and you got no life and there's nowhere to go, then tune in to the Animation Truman Show. You'll be glad you did.
Okie dokie. Okay, so this does not... Oh, great. Krita just blew up. Well, I did make a comment on Discord about technical difficulties, so... you never know when you're going to have technical difficulties. And my technical difficulty at the moment appears to be that... yeah, literally nothing wants to work. I'm afraid that we're going to have to go to the task manager and kill Krita, which is kind of interesting because I just opened the task manager and then what happened? Krita actually finally died. So, okay, let's open her back up and get busy and look at what we are doing today. So I want to turn the streaming interface, I was going to say off. I actually have one screen too few is what I'm thinking I got going on here. Okay, I think what I want is this scene. And so then the question becomes, what the heck are we doing today? What we're doing is I'm making adjustments with for OBS right now, so that when I want to switch screens and stuff, I can do so. Okay, I haven't been on here in a while, folks, and I'm a little out of practice. But at least I got the Animation Truman Show jingle to work. Okay, so let's jump over to Vegas. And what I'm doing is two things, one of which you guys sort of get to witness to a degree and the other which you don't. The one you don't is basically about the script. So the script for episode 3 is, it's about 1/3 written. By the way, say hello to Zuko the African gray parrot. He's over there chirping in the background. So when you hear a very strange squeaking noise, that's Zuko trying to join the conversation. Okay, so I'm kind of tweaking the script. And then meanwhile, what I'm also doing to just put variety into my day is looking at what is currently edited on episode 3 and just making some modifications. You know, I'm just kind of getting back in the groove and saying, okay, what needs to be improved, this sort of thing. So I've already made a few tweaks to some of these shots and tightened them up. It looks like in total, yeah, I mean, in total, I think I said the other day we've got 4 minutes that's edited. It's really more like 3. So it's like 3 minutes. 3 minutes of show edited. So let's switch back to Krita, and then I can change my interface to see if there's anything going on in the chat. And it doesn't look like there is. It looks like no one really cares today, which is understandable. It's Friday morning. So, just for kicks and giggles, what I'll do right now, since nobody's really actually watching, I'll just take watching. Okay, so that's the live stream you're hearing. So I'm going to take the live stream, cut this, and I'm going to paste it into the Discord announcements thing, just so that if people wonder where the heck to go, now they know. Okay, so there's nothing going on in the stream, so I'm just going to get to work. So what I've got here is a shot of Vespar, and in the show, let me see if I can find it in the show, and then what I will do is I'm going to change my preview display from my editor timeline so that it shows on the same screen that has Krita, so that if I want to show something, I can. So video preview preferences is not it. Video preview device preferences. And I believe what I want is screen 3. Yep, screen 3. So I'm going to apply that. Okay, so now if I want to preview it on the big screen, I can. All right, so I want to go back here to where, yeah, right here. So we got Vespar getting a little pissy here. A little pissy. Okay. And you'll notice, see right there in that shot, basically the size of his body changes. It's like he comes toward the camera a little bit. Right there. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of winky. So with that, we're going to jump back over here to sorry, I've got a rogue window from Vegas from my editor that was showing on my third screen. I'm like, what the heck is that? Okay, so back to the task at hand. So the problem that we have is, I thought this was an interesting study actually, and it's why I went live, because what we'll see here is sometimes there's a tug of war, okay, in, let's call it low budget animation. There is a tug of war between the ability to leverage your material and how doing so paints you in a corner. Hey, Sifter. Okay, so what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that if I want to quickly make some changes in this shot, it's kind of helpful if I take all of the layers of the character and just bake them together. The problem is, oftentimes the instant you do that, the very next thing you have to do kind of requires that the layers be separate, right? So that's kind of the thing we're going to fight with. So in this case, I was able already, if we scroll through here carefully, okay, I was wrong. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. We've got Vespar and we've got the background. This is exactly the situation I was just describing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to basically duplicate this entire group, okay? And then I'm going to merge this group. So sometimes this is the way to go, sometimes it's not, it just depends. If I were to find out that, say from a color correction standpoint, there's something wrong with Vespar, then I've just actually created a problem for myself. But for now, what we have is this shot of Vespar now is all on one layer. The ink, the paint, everything else is all baked together. And by the way, like I said, Zuko is jealous of you good people. He's totally jealous of you people. Aren't you, Zuko? Oh, yeah. And because you're getting the attention and he's not, he's decided to bark like a maniac. And to tell you the honest truth, if that continues too much, it would be enough to make me stop the live stream, because it would drive me bananas and kind of make me angry, frankly. So, just word of warning. But that's the price you pay for having an African gray parrot. Okay, so is this fixable? Well, step one would be, I thought, okay, I believe I saved my work, and this change right here was in fact baked into the work before I had it locked up and I had to use the task manager. Okay, so this frame right here has been stretched a bit and resized slightly. And now I'm just going to hit the A key, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to shrink him down a bit, and I think what I'll do is turn off the background and turn on the onion skins temporarily, so I can just kind of see how things were positioned. And okay, so what I'm seeing is, let's look at where the previous frame was. So the previous frame was right there. Oh, okay, I see. Okay, so it's this red one right here. So what I want to do is kind of probably anchor it on the shoulder, like right about there. And then let's look at what happens on the next frame. Okay, yeah. So here, I'm thinking he does need to come forward maybe a little, but something like this. Now this frame, yeah, so now this frame, this is where I'm going to use the onion skins. Oops. I'm going to just try to match those like that. Okay, and that's a mistake. As you can see, I actually created a new keyframe when I meant to just change the existing one. Okay. And as you can see right there, this is what makes this really difficult, is that I've got to match the sizes now. which is definitely pretty obnoxious, but it can be done. I'm thinking that's probably where I want to be. Let's find out. Yeah, so Vespar just kind of does his little pouty thing. Okay, cool. So I got away with it this time by taking all of the layers that comprise Vespar and I just removed them. I effectively removed them because I baked them all down into a single layer. Okay, so there was actually, now that I've done that, there's one more thing I wanted to do, which is way back here, he had this thing in hand, and it just poof, disappeared. So what I think I'd like to try here is to grab this and just lasso this guy, copy it, and then what we're going to do is just go to the next frame, and then for me the hotkey is Control-Shift-V. I'm going to paste into this layer. So there it is. And now what I want to do is just give myself a little bit of motion here. Just one frame that gives me a transition. Okay, I'm actually not totally loving that. Golly, I actually think I'm going to go Control-C. I'm going to go Control-Shift. Okay, stop everything. This is one of those moments where what I do, and this actually happens fairly frequently, is something happens that I literally am not sure what I just did, and when that happens, I just usually say out loud, stop everything. You got to freeze. Don't try to move fast anymore. Reevaluate. Think about what's going on here. And adjust accordingly. So I'm going to say for this one, let's go ahead and grab this. Control-C. Let's go here. Do the same thing again. Control-Shift-V. So all we're trying to do is just smooth out the motion a little bit. Okay? And on this frame, I do need to make a selection here. But on this frame, all we're doing is just removing that. And that, of course, created a new keyframe. But I think we should be in good shape here. Should look a little smoother. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so now you could argue that maybe that hand should be... It's like maybe it is a little too smooth. So let's just think about that for a half second. This is easy to fix. Okay, so we got a little hint of it there. So let's see the problem. Okay, so now this is a great example of what I was talking about. Because we're baked in, the rest of this doesn't exist. Oh, wait. Okay, it kind of does. All right, well, how the heck that happened? Krita does have, Krita does maintain a larger canvas than what you actually see in the frame. So I guess that worked to my benefit in this case. Okay, so this is a bit clunky because it's all baked into the same layer. Everything I'm doing right now would be easier if I just cut the hand into a separate layer. So just be aware. Because I'm having to make a selection every time in order to make edits. Makes sense, people? I trust it does. So now, I'm going to go here. And what I'm going to do, okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a utility layer. B. And okay, stop everything. The great example, exactly what I was talking about a moment ago. I just drew and nothing came on the screen. What's going on? Well, I know what's going on. There's a selection. Okay, now it'll work. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this here in a utility layer because that tells me exactly, in fact, I should probably even make it tighter. This is to tell me exactly where the hand was initially. Okay? And then, actually, I think I might just erase this part. I'm going to use my Conan brush. What is the Conan brush? It's a brush that was created specifically to simulate the brush that John Buscema used to use when he did his own inking on Conan. And Rob de la Torre, I hope I'm saying that correctly, who I believe is from Spain, is doing Conan now for, I can't remember the name of the comic company. Do you guys know? Yeah, to Sifter's point, obviously the problem I had with the hand, potentially if it had been cut off, was that it was being cropped to the frame, but actually it wasn't. If you did want to, it does come up. Like when it comes up is when you have something that's like 3,000 pixels wide, like a really big image. And then what you're wanting to do is crop into that into a smaller frame. And if you're really sure you're ready to do so, you say, well, I want to get rid of everything that's outside of the frame. And the way you do that is, I believe, I haven't done it in a while, but I believe it's probably image. I'm going to find this. Oh, yeah, trim to image size. There it is. That will take whatever's inside the frame, and anything that you can't see that's outside the frame gets cut out. Okay, so back to work. I just added a utility layer so I can see where the hand is. And now all I'm saying is I feel like this hand movement maybe was a little too abrupt. So I'm going to go as far as I can. Okay, that's probably pretty good. Because we've got, we went from this to this to this. So there's basically some easing taking place. And then what we'll do is say, let me see how far this one goes. Okay, yeah. So from here to here, it's probably okay. Let's turn off the utility layer and just see how it looks. Okay, I like the easing. I like the fact that it's like, yeah. Anybody got any gripes? Sifter, you want to complain? You know, like, I think it sucks, dude. All right, so Control R. Fortunately, Krita does remember our render settings. So I'm rendering a ping image sequence, and it remembers the folder and everything. I remember when that was finally added to Krita, where it would remember the render settings from a previous, well, it would bake it into the file basically, and how helpful that was. So okay, so now in Vegas there is actually a little bit of time stretching on this particular frame. So I'm going to go ahead and let Tobias chit chat for half a second, and then that looks good. That looks good. Is this actually sped up? You guys can't see this, but oh, the playback rate's 1.5. That seems a little high to me. I'm actually going to switch it back to 1 and see how that feels. It may be faster. Actually, I was wrong. I liked it better when it was faster. So let's go Control Z. We'll speed it back up, and you know, I have to say that when I first went back and revisited the episode, I did a lot of editing. Like I took, you know, I was like, how far can I chop this down, chop this down, chop this down, so that it really keeps moving, you know. So let's see here.
Tianara cannot get far in the forest at night.
Okay, cool. I think we're in good shape. So that's really what I'm doing today, is I'm just looking at shots, and the time that I'm giving to animation is really given to touching up what's been done before. I'm not getting into new stuff. Okay, so I want to take a moment here, I think. I'm going to pull down the Discord screen for half a second. Okay, so this is interesting because I don't want to take a lot of time with this, but once I posted that I was going to be live streaming again, we got this note from Amar, kind of looking back quite a few years, and he's basically talking about different ways to do what I'm doing. I want to say I would say, Amar, probably, first of all, I would say this discussion, what you're posting here, probably doesn't belong in the announcements. Although arguably this does, just because you're announcing, as it were, some cool effect that's available. Here's the problem. The challenge as I see it is that, A, the way that I am animating at this point ain't gonna change. Ain't gonna change. Behind the scenes, am I exploring tools that might improve or speed up or raise the quality of the finished product? Absolutely, I'm looking into those things. However, I think there's a bigger point that's worth talking about today, which when I was doing my journaling this morning, it really struck me. And I want to share some, I want to divert from animation for a minute, as I often do here, and share some ideas that some of you may find interesting or encouraging as people who are animating and want to, okay, so if I can give voice to your psychology, it would be something like, I want the world to tell me that I can do this thing that I really enjoy doing and actually make a living at it and or be successful, whatever. Okay? Yeah, Sifter, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. And I would say, you know, it's broken to the extent that the result that I get is or is not quote unquote good enough. Here's the problem though. And it really struck me the other day, you know, after talking to my distributor, you know, this cartoon hasn't, you know, it's not like paying all my bills, but on average, if you look at what's accrued over 2 years, it hasn't been consistent. There have been spikes. However, it has actually come out to about $500 a month over 2 years. Okay, so again, you can't necessarily make a living on that, and it takes a long time and a lot of effort to create, you know, a whole episode of a show. Sifter, in your case, I know that you've got it in you to create entire shows all by yourself, and there's a lot of ways you could optimize the time it takes you to do that. And what I mean by that is, if you're like if I was going to distribute, like probably a good example for me right now would be Fan Futurama. If I was going to move forward with Fan Futurama right now, I would actually, since I can't really legally publish the thing, but I can have a fan presence, right? I would actually continue it as a pencil test. I'd say, you know, actually a pencil test is more compelling and it has a certain mystique to it because it is a work in progress that almost makes it cooler. Like if I produced an episode of Fan Futurama that looked identical to the popular show, there would be no mystique to it. You'd be like, you know, you certainly wouldn't go, oh my God, was this was done by one person kind of thing? You know, you wouldn't even think that. If you make it perfect, then its only merit can be the script and the entertainment value of the show. If you take a little different approach, which, like I'm saying, the case would be to actually just do it as a pencil test. Now it's got its own mystique that's kind of unique. So that's just an aside. But here's the thing I really want to mention to you guys. I decided in, I think, 2018-19, somewhere in there, it was pre-COVID, that I was going to, come hell or high water, create at least one episode of this cartoon kind of thing. There have been a lot of things I've started and not finished in my life. But every time I have seen it through and finished it, in time, everything I've ever done has eventually found its audience and turned out to be reasonably, you know, profitable or whatever. It was certainly worth doing. And I do believe that that's the way it is, even if something is... Okay, so why am I saying this? I'm saying this because I understand the mindset of an artist or of a creative person who is in a place where they are wishing that the universe would give them both permission and preferably the assurance that you can do your thing and you're going to be okay. You know, you're going to be able to make your way and yada, yada, yada. Glad to hear it, Sifter. Here's the thing, friends. I want to go back in history. I'm actually going to look at my journal and go back in history now. So this is the part where you're not seeing too much happening on the screen. So I guess you'll have to be. Back in the day, people told me they would just listen, you know, as if it was a podcast or something, and not even necessarily watch the screen. So this may be one of those moments. But I noticed the following thing. Not only have I noticed that everything that I've actually seen, like for example, around 1990, golly, must have been around 97 or so, I decided I was going to really ramp up the radio jingle thing and just go try to sell radio jingles. So the compelling proposition for me as a creator was, wouldn't it be cool if every day I could create a new piece of music, play all the instruments myself, do all the vocal parts myself, and actually make some bank from that, you know, to be able to have it pay me to just do this cool work all day, every day. The fact of the matter is, it only took about 2 months before that was exactly the case. I had found a number of radio stations that would, that would either turn me on to their advertiser clients, or they would have me do the jingle and resell it. Doesn't matter, but the point was, when I saw it through, it worked out. It took some time, and I don't think this has anything to do with talent, and it doesn't have anything to do with encouragement or permission, and that's the problem I'm talking about today. Okay? So I'm gonna share with you guys 3 instances that I can remember that occurred to me this morning. In 1983, I was in high school, and I was toying around with the idea of actually doing an animated cartoon. Now, back then, you would have had to do it with cells. You know, you would have had to do it the old way. Here's the thing. When I look back on that, and I can remember what my mind was focused on. And by the way, Amar, if you're around, I don't think you are, but if you are, or you watch this video, I want you to really, really think about this. I had come across some acetate cells, just a few that you could draw on, but I didn't really have the ink to, put ink on them, and I didn't have the paint to paint the back of them, although I did have access to oil paint from school. So, but as I was thinking about that today, I was thinking, this is insane, because I remember when I was in elementary school, the librarian in my elementary school made a stop motion movie. Okay, with cutouts. So I know in the town I grew up in, there was an animation camera somewhere. Okay. But in 1983, what I was focused on was the idea that I needed a whole stack of those acetate things. I thought about the limits, and I had a concept. It was kind of an idea of a short where this sort of leprechaun dude would come into the scene and be hopping on lily pads across a pond or something. I remember it was something like that. And the thing that's sad to me was that at that time, because I was focused on the things I didn't have, or the technology that wasn't available, or might have been too expensive, I didn't find a freaking way to do it. And the reality is I could have. I could have taken a 3-ring binder and put plain old notebook paper in it, turn it sideways, and I could have done a whole cartoon. Now, it probably wouldn't have been very good or whatever, but I could have done it. And if I had done it, it may not have been successful in any way that matters to us that are maybe trying to make a buck with our creativity. But what it would have done is, by seeing it through, I would have gained a little bit more skill, a little bit more discernment and nuance about what works and what doesn't, and it would have kind of moved the needle. As it was, all of my attention energy did not go to fucking doing it. It didn't. The energy went to reading more books, Disney animation, The Illusion of Life, probably eventually Richard Williams' book, the Animator Survival Kit, or the books I couldn't afford at that time. Oh, well, I can't afford that book, so that means I can't do anything. Everything was, in my mind, was about the limitations. Similarly, in the early 1990s, I had 2 Ensoniq EPS samplers, and I ultimately bought the ASR10, which was a 24-bit, really good quality sampler. At the time, I didn't even know it, but at the time, it was basically state of the art. I didn't even realize it. So more of my energy, attention energy, which you've only got so much every day. It's just like money in a bank account that you have to spend every day, right? Is your energy, your attention. Well, more of that attention went to wishing I had a synclavier, or wishing I had a proper recording studio, because back then those were a thing, or wishing I had a condenser mic like a Neumann or something. All of my energy and my brain power, my minutes of energy went to all the reasons why this was going to be either difficult or impossible. And so then I would talk about it, and I would talk about it to people sort of from the vantage point of, you know, look at what I can do. It's like a little kid saying, hey, see what I did? And then you want somebody to say, yeah, that's very good. And you want them to say, you have permission to do this. Yes, you can do this thing you love. And by the way, if you stick with it, I'm sure you're gonna do great. In fact, I'll even give you a guarantee that you're going to be successful. And I got to tell you, people, a lot of people think that way. But here's the problem. The universe says, screw you, buddy. If you do not have the courage and the tenacity to do, and by the way, when you start doing, the very first thing that'll happen is your computer will blow up. Or you'll run into some ridiculous barrier that you never even saw coming. You couldn't have conceived what would have gone wrong. It will be kept from you, I swear. Because your resolve, it's like the universe says, okay, buddy, okay, you think this is what you want to do? Okay, let's see. Let's see what it takes to stop you. And the reality is, most of you that would ever watch this video here today, and hey, Art, talking partly for you, buddy. Most of you who would watch this probably have at least some of that psychological challenge that faces you. We want permission. We want guarantees or assurance that this can work out. The reality is, friends, first and foremost, you do have permission. You can do any damn thing you want. But you don't get a guarantee. You don't get anything. In fact, you get the opposite. The minute you start, you'll start running into barriers because your resolve, at least this is what has happened for me, and I'm talking about over a lifetime of creative work. Your resolve will be tested. Your resolve will be tested. You will run as fast as you can start. It's almost like when you're finally resolute, when you finally reach the point where you go, by God, I've overcome my insecurity, I've overcome my fear, I'm gonna do this. And then the very first thing that'll happen will be the one thing that it takes to stop you. And the reason that happens is because well, let's put it this way. I've done a lot of philosophizing in the last few years, and I've really arrived at a very simple 3-step philosophy. Okay? So this is a little bit of a gear shift, but it's very relevant. This is what I really truly believe at this point. Number 1, you live what you think. Meaning, whatever's going on in your mind is your lived experience. So it's not a bunch of woo-woo. It doesn't mean that the outside world doesn't really exist or you're manifesting it in real time or any of this BS. Those things could in fact be true, but they don't matter because for your lived experience, what you actually will remember as your lived experience is whatever you were thinking. So the way I describe it is, if you're going over a roller coaster, you do not actually remember the experience of a roller coaster. Because, think about it, every single individual there, either on the ground or on the roller coaster, is having literally a different experience than you are. So there's no way you can ever be objective about anything. It's a completely subjective point of view. And what you will recall is simply what you were thinking, and you could say what you were feeling too, but basically that's what you remember. And so this begs a very important question. If my lived experience is whatever I was thinking, then does it work in reverse? Can I choose a thought and that begins to shape my lived experience? So when the woo-woo manifestation people talk about it, they do a horrible job of explaining it, but in fact, what they say works actually does work. But they don't explain why it works in a way that's naturalistic or, accurate. What actually happens is when you think a thought, like my animation is successful now or whatever, let's say you imagine that, you visualize it in your mind. You're not having the lived experience of having been successful, but you are having the lived experience of what it feels like to think about being successful. And so now put a pin in that for just a minute, and I'll tell you what the second 2 bullet points are. First, I said you live what you think. But here's the other thing. Number 2, you are what you do. Okay? And I say this is for you, Amar, and I say this with love. I really do. Is that it doesn't matter how much you talk about anything. Basically, nobody cares anyway. What matters is what you do. That's it. Both for yourself, but even more so from the standpoint of the external world. All that ever will ever matter is what you did. That's it. Nobody gives a shit about anything else. Why would they? Why should they? They have their own path that they are on. So when we do, what we're doing is we're disrupting. We're adding something to the mix that then affects other people. Okay, so now the question becomes, how do we as creative, sensitive souls get hamstrung or shanghaied and unable to, fully self-actualize and, by the way, see things through and stuff? Believe me, people, it's not like I've always done this. I've usually done it wrong. Okay. So the third bullet point is you do what you did. Think about that. Okay, my lived experience is what goes through my mind, what I choose to think. And as far as the world is concerned, and basically as far as I'm concerned, who am I? Well, I am what I did. Doesn't matter what I thought. Doesn't matter what my opinions were. Doesn't matter how much I suffered and how pathetic I am and how much I need sympathy and assistance and all my excuses. None of it matters. Nobody else cares, and they never will. Why would they? They're basically having the same struggle. Okay? So it's a lot cleaner burning fuel to just assume that the following is true. You are what you do. End of story. That's it. You are what you do. Can talk till you're blue in the face, but until you take action, you're just a talker. Okay, so number 3 is then what's preventing you or hindering you, and it is that you do what you did. Why do we do what we do? We do what we do because our psychology, our subconscious mind, is used to it. Okay, so let me give you the extreme of this. The extreme example would be when a child is 2 or 3 years old, and let's say they're frightened by an experience, okay? Think about it. At that point, when it happens, especially if it comes from an authority figure like an adult or a parent, when that happens, that child does not have the lifetime of experience that you guys have with which to compare their current lived experience, do they? They're a blank slate, more or less. So what that means is that what their mind stores as emotion and memory is presumed to be true and accurate and good and right. Why? Not because it's good and accurate and true and right, but because for the child, from their perspective, they have nothing to compare it with. So they just assume this is the way the world works. And then you guys literally spend, and I've done it, this is my life, you spend the rest of your life trying to unlearn the things you learned first. And so if the things you learned first were traumatic and really damaged your self-esteem, taught you that you are an inconvenience to everyone around you, for example, which is very common with children, because frankly, children are in fact inconvenient by definition. And so it takes a very special kind of parent to navigate that development in a healthy way. So this is, I think, something that many creative people struggle with, is They're looking for permission, and I'm here to tell you you have permission. And I do have a track record that says every time I actually see it through, for example, my feature films, I have 3 that make pretty good bank every month. Oddly enough, Salt and Light is catching up, which is kind of cool. Okay? So I essentially have 4, I've got 4 movies and 2 cartoons that are out there earning royalties, let's say. So what I'm saying is I'm taking the position of saying I have the authority to give you guys permission. Sifter, I give you permission. I'm telling you, you're going to be a very successful storyteller if in fact that's what you want to be. And if it is what you want to be, just fucking start doing it, man. Just do it. Why? Because every time you do it, things go wrong. That's the whole point. That's desirable. Because when things go wrong, you have to figure out how to correct them and get around them. And there's nobody, I'm having some work done on my house because I thought there was a problem with the foundation, but it's actually just the sill plate needs to be replaced. I won't explain what that is. It's basically a big board that your house sits on top of the footer, which is on the foundation, which is, essentially part of the foundation. Do you want the person to come jack up your house and replace the sill plate? Do you want that to be the person who's already done it 500 times and has made all the mistakes and can see things literally that the inexperienced guy can't see? Is that who you want to have do it? Or do you want to have the guy that's he can talk the talk, he knows every single type of hydraulic jack there is out there that can jack up a house, and he can talk your ear off about all the pros and cons and why he's in authority, and boy, that hydraulic jack, that's a piece of crap. We wouldn't use that one. I'm thinking, why the hell are you telling me this? That's not what what I want is, I just want the job to be done well. That's all. And funny enough, when I had the guys come out to quote the job, there was one in particular who would have had me put in 8 helical piers on the exterior of my house to support the foundation at about $2,000 a piece plus labor, when in fact the entire issue that I'm having has nothing to do with the foundation. They would have supported the foundation, that is true. That would have accomplished that. And the problem that I'm having wouldn't have been fixed at all. You'd have still had a 2-inch shift in a corner of the house because the sill plate's gone. So it took some research, even on my part. It took some poking around to get good information and sort of assemble a model in my mind. Okay. So anyway, the crux of the rant today is that I was baffled. When I got a good royalty report about a month ago, and a check, obviously, it really blew my mind. It really stopped me in my tracks, because I said, you know what I just proved here? I proved that, as embarrassing as it is to say this, that if I create cartoons, they will pay my bills. They will. Even if they suck. It's not like Salt and Light's all that, there's plenty to criticize. The animation, there's all kinds of things you could criticize. It's not bad, but it's not great by any stretch. And yet, it's doing fine. It's not like you got to be the best. It's not like you got to know every trick in the book. It's not like you got to be using every last AI tool that's out there. So you got to be down with what's happening. No. By the time something is happening, it's already too late. It's kind of funny, because this is what I've actually learned from trading, doing trading in the markets, stock trading, is that indicators are helpful, or they can confirm what you think you see, but the truth of the matter is they're always late. By definition, they are always late. They can only show you based on what already happened. Therefore, and what a great illustration, because what that means is you have to follow your hunch and take the risk, or you don't get the reward. Now, there are ways to jump on and get a little bit of a reward even after that confirmation has already come, of course. But the point is that if you're waiting for the guarantee, by the time you get the guarantee, the window of opportunity already passed you by. That's the bad news. The good news is there's a new window of opportunity literally every single day. Okay? So what does this all boil down to? What it boils down to is that as creative people, what we're struggling with is the will and the tenacity to start. And then once we start, we're struggling with the will and the tenacity to finish. And YouTube is replete with people who are, maybe some of them are actually making decent bank from what amounts to commentary. And you can, you know, respect the quality of the production surrounding that. You know, you can do anything well, right? So I don't want to be too disparaging of people that are basically out there, you know, talking about it but don't really do it themselves, because not everybody wants to do it. Not everybody wants to. There's people that are really into animation, for example, who never want to animate themselves. They just love the storytelling medium or whatever, right? So we're not trying to bash on people here. I'm trying to talk to the heart and the psychology of somebody who wants to be creative. And I think it's important to say, maybe I'm talking to the wind here. I don't know. But, and by the way, hey, Awkward Penguin. Hey, Amar, obviously, Sifter. So I think that's the end of the rant. I think it's important to say these things, because if you wait for validation, or if you wait for confirmation, or if you wait for a guarantee, you will literally wait your whole life. Because what the world is looking for is the person who won't wait. That's what the marketplace is looking for. The marketplace is looking for the person who says, come hell or high water, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing it my way, with my tools, in a way that satisfies me. And then what happens is, naturally, when you do that, you develop a style. You develop an approach that's unique to you. And then, just think of it like Steve Jobs coming out with the iPhone. It's the idea that the market isn't looking for that. The idea is that you have the courage to see it through and create it, and then you throw it out there, and then they go, oh yeah, well, we all knew all along this was definitely going to be the cool thing, or whatever. Sometimes that's what happens. But the only way you ever get to find your audience and make your bank is by finishing. It's the only way. Now, Sifter's talking about doing a short, and I'll concede there may still be, at this point, especially in the animation space, there is some value to doing shorts, for sure. It would be better to do a really good quality short than probably a sloppy full-length movie, let's say. Maybe. There's probably room for both, though. I mean, think about Rocky and Bullwinkle. I mean, was there ever a more crude production than Rocky and Bullwinkle or Underdog? And yet, it was entertaining. It was entertaining. They weren't leaning on the animation for the entertainment value. They were leaning on the voices and the scripts and the jokes, you know. And my point here, I suppose, is it takes all kinds. It takes all kinds, you know. Some people will like this, some people will like that. But you don't even get to have the opportunity to find your audience if you don't finish something. You don't even get the opportunity until you've got something. And that's actually why, for me, live streaming is a little risky, particularly because, you know, I'm having this conversation right now. I'm having this conversation with you guys. Believe me, I would not be saying what I'm saying right now if I didn't sense that I understand the psychology of people like you, because you are sort of people like me, and I want to help you. I want to encourage you, you know, because I find it maddening to see people suffer the way I suffered in the past. It's because I've learned it's just so unnecessary. Now, you're still going to suffer, because if you do have tenacity and resolve, it isn't like it's easy, but it does get easier. Why? because of what I said before. You do what you are what you do, and you do what you did. So and you live what you think. So the minute you start thinking about the outcome that you want, but don't just think about the outcome you want, but think about the steps it would take. What would I have to actually do to get there? Okay? What happens is your mind becomes accustomed to that thought. That idea, that mindset starts to actually become a habit for you, and then what happens is it's a little less scary. Why? Because it's not as unfamiliar. Delving into the waters of this thing you want to accomplish just doesn't intimidate you as much. Because you've gotten yourself acclimated to the thought. That's how manifestation actually works. You condition the thought, the idea, the mindset becomes more habitual. And then what will happen is naturally, you will begin to take actions that are congruent with that thought or that idea that you've gotten used to. You see? And that's how the thought process can condition and guide and actually cause the manifestation of things in the, in the material world. It's not magic. It's not woo-woo. It's not even spiritual. It's there may be spiritual stuff for sure, but the way this works is just the bottom line is that the people who tend to be happy and productive and actually wind up getting the brass ring are the people that just kind of put their head down and they just fucking do it. They just go. And the people that have been most successful at that, I think of Mike Post, I think of Stephen J. Cannell, I think of Jack Kirby. None of these people were like the best at what they did. None of them. Most are actually just north of average in terms of their talent. But they're just tenacious, they're like a bulldog. They just aren't going to stop, and that is probably the single best characteristic, the most determinant of where you'll end up, in life. So anyway, I said it's risky because when I start, I've talked for half an hour about this, and that means I'm not getting any animation done. So let's try to get back on track. If anybody has comments, feel free to share them. I'm actually going to take a second, if you guys don't mind, and read through these. Producing a short, just setting up folders and stuff today. Good. I remember acetate. Okay, well, of course. Yeah, we're similar age. I also have been thinking of going back to stop motion as well, but using Blender. Do whatever you want, but do something, Amar. That's all I can say. Long time no see. I've allowed excuses and limitations to prevent me from finishing my project since the late 90s or early 2000s. Right, and that's why I don't want to be too hard on Amar here, okay? What Amar is confessing is exactly what I've dealt with as well. No question about it. I wouldn't even say this stuff if it wasn't for the fact that I've sort of done it the wrong way in most arenas most of my life. I've been a slow learner, man. Slow learner. I've started and stopped enough projects to have a mini Netflix channel. And frankly, there may be a way, Amar, to take some of those legacy projects that are half finished and turn them into something that's fairly entertaining if you wanted to. There's probably a story there, I'm still lucky to be able to be here to change that. Absolutely, man. Gotta go. We'll watch the rest later. Yeah, so he's not here anymore. Anyway, so Awkward Penguin, again, good to see ya. So yeah, if anybody's got any other comments, rock and roll, I'll try to pay attention. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is just consider what's going on here in this shot. I guess this one's done. It does look smoother. Yeah, I'm definitely happier with that. Okay, so let's get rid of this. And okay, is Vegas going to lock up on me? The button on Vegas that shows live screen display, so it's going to show the visuals on another screen, was pressed, but yet it wasn't actually on, so that was kind of strange. Okay, there it is. You just never know when stuff's going to lock up or act stupid, right? So there's the shot we just did. So I think my sense is that the Animation Truman Show is going to be for doing this, once I'm actually cranking it to animation. Okay, there's something I somewhat object to. And right now, of course, there's definitely some writing to do. So, okay. All right, I object to this. What's the problem here? You guys can probably guess. This is shot 03-9. So does anybody care to guess what was wrong with that shot? It's kind of obvious. Oops. Okay, I'm going to turn the preview back off, and now here's the shot. Let me rewind this. Man, that's a lot of layers. You know what the problem is? Tobias never freaking blinks. Like, that's just wrong. Come on. The guy's got to blink. Okay, so now, because I haven't looked at this shot in probably at least 2 years, I need to reacclimate myself to what's going on here. Particularly because it looks like I did a horrible job of labeling. Okay, so there's the highlight. Maybe I should start labeling these things. Nope. I'm going to be just as stupid today as I was in the past. Because there's one thing in particular I'm trying to find here. Basically, here's Tobias, okay? So there's Tobias. Okay, so there's the highlight. I would say, looking at it on the show, it's a little weak. Yes, so I'm going to actually turn the opacity of that up a bit. Yeah, we don't want to get too crazy, but yes, that would be better. Okay, so then gradient. Arguably, let me see. Yeah, it's probably pretty good where it is. Okay, so what I want to see here is, here's Tobias's face. Okay, and we're just looking for his, I'm basically looking for his mouth. Where his mouth is. And obviously I could just put, I said mouth, it's actually his eyes I'm supposed to be looking at. He's not supposed to be talking, he's supposed to be blinking. Okay, so I put some shadows on there, cool. Tint, ink. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. The tint should probably be turned off. The shadow should be turned off. And I'll bet you this, yep. This is what I want right here. Okay, this is his body, or head and all that. Okay, and it looks like indeed we have no other frames in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab this one and just drag it for, okay, stop everything, Dave. Hit undo. Whenever something stupid happens, especially interface-wise, I just try to stop dead in my tracks because it's too annoying. So what just happened was I dragged, and just because of sort of the inexactness of the stylus, it dragged it into the wrong layer. It actually dragged it from one layer into the other. Okay, so why did I do that? So that I can go back one frame, and then what I'm going to do, very simply, is zoom in here, hit the B key, and actually what I'm going to do is, yes. Okay. Hold on. Okay, we need to do the same thing with the ink layer. Sorry, guys. So let's take this and put it here. Okay. Because really, yeah, that's just the ink layer. So I guess what I'll, okay, stop. I need to go control insert so there's already a frame there, so I can erase this ink, and then I'll just, I think, boy, it's tempting in the ink layer to do this, but to be strict, I really should do it here. So I'm going to hit control insert. That puts in a blank keyframe, and then this is where, yep, I knew it. Okay, so we've got other color correction going on here, so it's important to, I'm hitting the tilde key to isolate this layer. And you need to do that with the tinting turned off, otherwise you're going to have, you know, you'll be painting and it won't actually be the right color. So let me just see what we have here and here. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to go back to the ink layer. I'm basically being strict right now. I'm saying, okay, let's do this exactly as we should. In other words, if I was being sloppy, I would probably be just painting all this stuff into the color layer or something. It just depends. It depends on the situation. So I'm going to hit the N key to zoom out. And now we have, with this little cluster right here, I'm just going to completely do this randomly. I'm just going to assume if I do it again here, it'll work. Okay? So now let's look at it. Let's zoom out. And in fact, let's do this. Let's go N key. So this would be actual size. Okay, you know, I would just say that the second blink really kind of took too long to hit. So, yes, that I like. So it's like right about there, I think. Okay, so let's just grab this. It's just like an attitude thing. Like, you got to think about it like, what would Tobias... Blinking is obviously a subtle thing, but like, what would he be doing? You know, he would be blinking in reaction to some degree to Vespar's rant. And you can kind of see that. Honestly, I wonder if, like, if we did two of these a little bit spaced apart, it's like, have you ever seen somebody when you ask them a direct factual question, okay? Why did you choose to do that? And they suddenly blink twice, like you can see the rigidity in them. And it's kind of funny, especially if you're autistic, because you're thinking, I just asked you a factual question and all you have to do is give me a factual answer. I didn't judge you. I didn't say, boy, you're an idiot to have done that. Why did you do that? Yeah, I didn't say that. I just asked the question. Why did you do that? It's just an observation. Anyway, the point here being, will this actually look more judgmental or defensive on Tobias's part if he blinked twice? I know I'm making a whole lot out of nothing here, but so let's go here. Okay, so Krita is treating that as a playback range. I don't like that. The reason I don't like that is it's out of character. Tobias would not have that kind of an attitude, especially towards Vespar. So I'm going to go Control-Shift-X and take those keyframes out, and I think this will probably time out about right. Hate to spend so much time fussing over stupid eye blanks, but actually, it kind of matters. Let him talk a bit. And I think what I'm going to do here, I'm going to try one more thing, just because it's kind of fun to fiddle around. I'm going to let the blink hold for one extra frame. You guys are probably going, okay, yawn. That I actually kind of like. Okay, so let me save this, and I'm going to re-render this and see how it looks in the show. So is this the right? Yep, everything looks correct. 3.00. Why does this say 09? And I'm wondering if my eyes are fooling me. This is looking like 03-00 when in fact this should be number 9. Number 9? Number 9? Well, we're going with it. Why the heck is that labeled 00? Okay, we're going back to the show, and we're going to look at this reaction. Okay, so he's fussing and scowling. Okay, we never saw the second eye blink, actually. Okay, so there's this ranting going.
Sir.
Okay, so let's just take a look here again. Let's see.
Managing troops is just slowing us.
Okay, hold on. I am going to try something here.
Managing troops is just slowing us down. We need a better plan.
Okay, well that will probably be okay. This is when I originally the shot was fully in the edit, and now it's been chopped down a bit, so we only ever actually see one eye blink. So I'm actually wondering, this is the kind of nuance you get into when you're editing. Okay, and I'm going to turn this line of dialogue back on because I want to see...
Managing troops is just slowing us down. We need a...
Okay, yeah. So this needs to be back earlier.
Managing troops is just slowing us down.
I don't like it.
Managing troops is just slowing us down. We need a better plan.
Okay, that'll actually work. We're nitpicking to a degree here that's to the point of ridiculous. So, but that's just because, you know, in the animation space, it's what I have to do at the moment on the show. So, okay, so I'm going to go and look at the comments here for half a second. If you want to find a layer without sifting through layers, hold R and click what you want to edit inside the canvas to select it. Okay, I'm going to try that right now. So if I hit, you're saying hit, hold R and click. Okay. Okay, so if you have a really thick set of layers, okay, so in this case I would probably then turn that off because I'm trying to isolate this, and that hit the ink and there's the color. And that's the part right there, Sifter, that's the part that's super cool. You can drag it, and now I can see, these two layers. Excellent, great tip, man, very good. I like it very much. Okay, except I think there's one problem. And the problem is I made all these tweaks and changes, and I never bothered to turn back on all of the layers that had been turned off. Yeah, that gradient right there is supposed to be in there. So, isn't that amazing? I find that fascinating, how I can be so fixated on the eye blinks that I didn't even notice that the final rendering of the animation was wrong. This is kind of the challenge of trying to do the kind of thing I'm doing here, is that you really do have to pay attention to a lot of stuff. And there's no way around it, you know. The alternative is to work on some kind of team. So Tobias looks like Zeus without Iris. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to there. I mean, obviously I know who Zeus is as far as king of the Greek gods and everything, but I'm wondering, are you referring to from a movie or something? Like, does he look like some actor or something? I don't know. Okay.
Managing troops is just slowing us down. We need a better plan.
Okay. You know, you guys could disagree with me, but for me, just having that one stupid eye blink in there really made the scene a little more alive. So, anyway, there's that. So that's done. Let's just keep cranking forward here. Oh, sorry, guys. I need to turn on the... I don't necessarily want the audio on right now. I'm just trying to judge. That animation feels pretty good. Okay, so now we're back to the kids. Okay, cool. Now, this is going to be pretty stupid sounding.
So, what's the plan?
Oh, okay, I guess that's the AI voices that I put in there. We got 6 viewers. Identify yourselves. We have 6 viewers right now, so guys, identify yourself. Okay, so...
So, what's the plan?
Hey, I know. We need a boat.
Where are we going to find a boat?
More importantly, where are we going to find a river? We just crossed the little Nile.
Okay, it's always fun when the show actually makes me laugh. Okay, so what I am looking at here mainly, guys, you guys need to if we're gonna have 6 people watching, somebody needs to start like commenting, do something, get involved here, people. Okay, so I'm only being half serious here. So what concerns me is
We need a boat.
Where are we?
okay. So this really doesn't matter at this stage of the game.
We need a boat. Boat.
But the timing of it is a little.
Where are we going to find a?
And frankly, that really shouldn't have an M on it. It should just be
Where are we going to find a boat?
Okay. And so just to be clear, that voice was generated by AI based on a 10-second sample of Natalie's voice from one of the other show episodes. And the AI generated voice is not quite to the level that we are going to demand ultimately. But my expectation is, I'm hoping that I can run, I can't remember if it's called like RTS or something, but there's a model out there that's really good. And if you do seed it with like a minute or more of voice, it does a better job. So this is fairly crude but almost passable.
We need a boat.
It's just her
Where
voice.
are we going to find a boat?
Okay, so a couple things I'm criticizing
I know.
here.
We need a boat.
First of all, I like, sometimes it baffles me that I let myself get away with some of this stuff, but the way his hat is just looks stupid. Okay, so let's just go to shot 13 and deal with it. All right, let's rock and roll. So shot 13 in my other screen, I'm going to shot 13 and popping it in. Here we go. Okay, so my assumption would be that, okay, that's the question marks. What is this group? This is everybody. So that's why I left it named Group 9, is because it's everybody. So we've got Mel here. Okay, cool. We got Tia here. And I may address some things about Tia later, but I don't want to go too crazy with Tia because, let's just put it this way. At this point, it would be tempting to do some things to improve her that kind of make her not quite accurate to the character we sort of came to know in the first 2 episodes. So I need to be a little careful about how aggressive I get. However, that hat is absolutely ridiculous. So that's the background. So where the heck is... Where's Luka? Where is Luka? Well, he should be on top, shouldn't he? So there's the tint. There's another tint. Oh, there's Luka. Sorry, guys. He's actually labeled. It's like right there in front of your face there, Dave. Okay, so we got ink. Oh boy, that is too bad. We got tint. We got color. Well, this is what I'm thinking, friends. There does not seem to be any animation. So, here's what I'm going to do. This is risky behavior, but I'm going to take the A key and I'm going to say, let's liquefy. And just do a liquefy operation on the entire group. And see if we can make this work. Okay, so performance is somewhat lacking. So let's kill Mel. Not literally, of course. Let's kill Tia. And let's kill the background. Okay. And then let's kill all of these special effect layers. Will that help? I have absolutely no idea. Doesn't seem to help much, honestly. But yeah, all I'm trying to do is just make it so his hat doesn't look like it's like I just was really sloppy that day. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the ink layer. Just put a little bit of something. Okay, that is absolutely an improvement. So we want to turn this on, this on. What is PT? Oh yeah, that's PT is pencil test. So we want to turn Mel back on. Then we want to turn, gosh, we'll call it a dyslexia thing. There's Tia. There's the background. See, there's stuff in here that was important to the production process, but ultimately didn't. That's why when I was turning layers off, I was speaking them out to myself because I want to remember it's the main character groups and then the 2 tint layers are what I wanted to remove. So let's see what we have. Okay, it's not bad, but where is Luka again? Man, am I blind. There's Luka. Okay, I want the whole group, and I want to do one more little adjustment here. It's just a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm doing liquefy on the group. And by the way, if you have multiple layers in a group, and those layers do have at least one animation keyframe on each of those layers, then if you go to a later frame and do a liquefy operation on the group, it will add keyframes to each of the individual layers. So just something to be aware of. Okay, so let's render this. Looks like we're in good shape to render. And then we'll see if it looks slightly less stupid. Here's... Okay, cancel that. Okay, we may have an issue here.
We need a boat.
Where are we going to find...
Okay, hold on now. What if...
We need a boat.
Okay. This does suggest... So at boat, I gotta look. I'm counting how many frames we are into this. About 12 frames into it. Okay, so about 12 frames into it, this actually goes right to what I was saying a moment ago. Okay, with Luka, what we would have to do is put in a keyframe here, a keyframe here, the color keyframe, and that's it. So why did I do that? Because now, around frame 12, Luka says boat. Okay, so what I'm wanting to do, and again, it's a little bit, well, it may not work, but what I'm doing is I'm going to say, let's just go 2 frames back here into the group, and I just want to give this a little bit of a lift. I hope this makes sense. Even though this is a pretty powerful computer I'm on, the performance doing this is pretty awful. It's pretty awful. If you're going to use liquefy like crazy, you'd probably have a better job using the deformation brush in Blender rather than using liquefy in Krita. Okay, that's actually not horrible. So it gets us kind of somewhere close to what we're trying to do, but I wanted it to be a boost. So so what I'm doing is I'm trying to make really small moves. There we go. I think I got it. We'll see. Okay. So he says, we need a boat. Will that work? I don't know. I'm going to save it because I can always delete the keyframes if it doesn't work. I can always chuck it pretty easily. So there's that. Okay, I haven't been watching my screen, so here we go. I don't usually use liquidity. Is it that good? I kind of hate how it smudges the line art. Okay, so what you want to do, Chiziapo, is if you're going to use liquify for animation, the rules are as follows. Number one, don't forget that while the character is moving, everything is motion blurred anyway. So the distortion of the crisp lines that occurs during the actual movement doesn't matter. The audience will never see that. So then what you do is you say, well, okay, can I do a slight like an unsharp mask probably? Like for me, filters blur, enhance. My unsharp mask is set to a ridiculously gentle. The radius is 1 and the amount is 0.5. And then if it's not enough when I do it, I just hit Control F and do it 2 or 3 times. But then the idea is just do the sharpening on your ink lines. Don't do them on the whole image, just the ink lines, and only do it after the movement has stopped. So in other words, the only time you need to worry about sharpening or compensating for the softening that occurs with liquify is after the character stops moving. Once they land, then sharpen them, or alternatively, just redo the ink. You know, just redo the ink lines on that one frame, and you're good to go. So that's sort of assuming a limited animation workflow, you know, for the most part. If you weren't having a limited animation workflow, you probably wouldn't even be having this discussion because you wouldn't be using liquify. You would actually have a number of frames where you have completely separate drawings, and of course 4 or 5 times the workload. So that's the trade-off. Okay, so how did this look in the show? I really kind of don't know, so let's have a see.
We need a boat.
Okay. Now, this could be...
Oh, we need a boat.
It's too... late?
We need a boat.
And it's quite debatable whether that effect is even, like, you know, very good. But that's okay. We're going to roll with it. I'm just going to move this back a few frames and re-render because who cares, right? All we have is time, and there's no harm in trying something else. Okay, so let's go here.
We need a boat.
Okay, stop everything. Unfortunately, this is... what time is it? 11:53? Okay, so this is a problem.
We need a boat.
I need to reload the show. So be patient, folks. I have to load a different veg file and then reload my edit, because what happened was if I touch and basically activate the Vegas interface while the render's still going in the background, then Vegas loses track of the image sequence that just got re-rendered, and it shows it as a bunch of blank frames. Little weird, little stupid, but there it is. Okay, and according to this, this is really annoying, but okay, so I have to actually search for the image. This is strange. Okay, it appears to be not finding it, which means, oh, I'm in the wrong episode. Duh. Okay. So, sorry guys, technical problem. It happens every single day, no matter how hard I try. Stupid things happen all the time. It's like I was talking to you earlier about how the universe seems to want to dissuade you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this and try one last time. Okay. It's searching for a missing file and it can't seem to find it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-render again. It appears that somehow, because Vegas got activated while this was still rendering, it permanently lost track of the image file, which of course, if you really think about the signal flow of that, is comically ridiculous, but you know, this kind of stuff happens with software all the time. So this is what I'm seeing on my Vegas screen. No matter what I do now, just because I made the mistake of activating Vegas, just touching it, touching the interface, half a second too early, because of that, the entire edit is broken. You know, you're going, no, that's impossible. There's nothing that ridiculous. But yes, that's exactly what appears to have happened. So I'm gonna, okay, yeah. So it is. I'm gonna ignore this, and I'll probably have to re-add it in. So here's what I'm going to do, just to make things a little bit not quite so stupid. I'm going to transition here to, poof, the Vegas screen so you guys can see what's going on. Okay, so what we have is this situation right here, where this image sequence, actually this is caused to probably end the live stream actually. Because what we have is we've got a image sequence that is actually used in 3 different cuts. It's cut apart. And this would be like the most boring thing in the world. Like I'm going to sit here for it's probably going to take me 20 minutes to solve this, to fix this. And it all happened again just because while it was rendering, I went click up, and then immediately Vegas said, well, there's a missing file, right? Because it wasn't actually missing. What it was doing, it was being rewritten. And so now my edit is broken just because you touched the wrong thing. Isn't
we need a boat.
Where are we going to find a boat?
More importantly.
Yeah, and this is actually creepily weird because this is saying this is 3 shots. I mean, I guess that is correct. Let's go back to here. I guess that is correct. So he says we're going to need a boat. Yeah, this is a long shot. I had forgotten this was quite as long as it is. So it's not surprising that there's some edits baked into it in the timeline, but now I have to correct that. I have to somehow trick Vegas into seeing the image sequence without. Okay, so to be clear, this is a true worst case scenario, so I'm going to show you guys the kind of stupid shit that can happen if you're just not like so freaking careful that you're not constantly compensating for the weaknesses of the tools. What we have now is this image sequence that is edited into 3 separate pieces. So now the question is, how do I trick Vegas into finding or seeing this image sequence? Because we know it's there, but yet, for some reason, Vegas seems convinced that it's not there. Now, one thing we could do, this is all just due diligence. Let's go back to here and go Control R. And so where are we saving this? We're saving this in episode 3, 03-13 render. Okay? So now what we do is we're going to go to that very folder and see what's in there. Okay. Okay, so this is a bit strange. I may be talking out the wrong end here because I'm going to close Vegas, actually, or at least close the edit. Okay, because actually Vegas is right. Okay, so I'm the one who's talking out the wrong end. For whatever reason, I think I know what happened. Okay, guys, so this is a great object lesson. This is like the kind of stuff you got to pay attention to. I think what happened, this says the last frame is 180, but I'm wondering if when I rendered it, I'll bet you what happened was when I rendered it, it was when these 3 frames were selected. Now watch this. Yep, there's the problem. Okay, guys, be aware. If you have a long timeline in Krita and you have a range selected, even though it will remember your render settings and the location, it will modify the frame range. So, okay, so this is not as tragic as I thought. So I'm just going to go back to here, confirm that this is correct, and re-render it. And then we'll reopen it in Vegas and probably everything's going to be fine. Because I didn't resave the Vegas file with the glitch baked in. So let's just see if we're lucky here, friends. Are we going to be lucky? Well, there it loaded up and it didn't give me a warning, so that tells me it's probably a-okay.
Just cross the little nab.
Okay. So yeah, it's right here. So I guess I should
We need a
apologize for the
boat.
rant.
Um,
Yeah, so now there it's, see the little bump?
We need a boat.
That's perfect.
Where are we going to find a boat?
More importantly, where are we going to find a river? We just crossed the little nab.
Okay. And actually, okay, so it's noon. I think this would be a good time to wrap it up. I hope you guys have had fun. And hopefully some of my thoughts were like in some way helpful for you. And yeah, Chizyapo, to be clear, reloading the frames when I closed and relaunched it is exactly what Vegas did. That's precisely what it did. So that's why I'm careful. If there's a glitch, and I know that the glitch is some kind of mistake, I'm very careful never to save the Vegas file, because then the glitch may be baked into the veg file. Probably not in this case, because it's just searching for an external image sequence. But I don't know. You just want to, I guess, proceed defensively. Let's put it that way. Okay, so I think that's it. And unless there are pressing questions in the chat, I'm going to call it a day. And thank you guys for hanging out. I'm sure I'll be back soon, because I kind of have a lot of work to do here, you know, animation stuff. So, all right, that's it. I will catch you all later. Poof.